Welcome to the podcast. My name is Connor Moroney. I'm your host today. We are powered by AFA, and I've got a very special guest here, former Brisbane Lions, now Adelaide Crows superstar, long-time friend, Benjamin Thomas Keays. How are we, mate?
Very good, Connor. How are you?
Mate, fantastic. A lot better than I'm here now. It was actually a stressful day, as I said to you before, wigging out hard, obviously, because your return back from Adelaide. We had a beer or two on Sunday, and then
we did.
A couple of the other fellas, not mentioning names, potentially wears a Raw jersey, was causing a ruckus all throughout the house. Clearly, news to me, but the old roommate was not happy at all. Apparently, people went through her room, maybe even left maybe a number one or number two in the toilet. But what it got me thinking, mate, was back when you and me were actually roommates. You know, I thought we were very good. We had some people move in and out with us. But, mate, what would you classify? Like, I always thought you were a great roommate, but was there anything that you would bring up about me?
No good.
No good?
No, I'm kidding.
I was offended. I was like...
Yeah, 2018, 19? 2018, lived together in Cannon Hill. Good times. It was good fun.
The address or else someone will rock up.
Yeah,
but
we're pretty much done everything. Best mates in high school, into roommates for a little while, into long distance friendship.
We've seen each other at our best and our worst. But mate, obviously killing it at the moment. Playing for the Crows, the season is building up quite nicely for you guys, especially in comparison to last year. And it's like a kind of realistic, well, it's actually better than realistic if you asked anybody probably in Adelaide a year ago where you'd be now. But big win on Saturday night, I believe, against St Kilda, 66-60, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, won by 6 points.
And you guys are down so far at the start.
Started so bad. Yeah, started terribly. But it was good. It was up in Cairns, so it was something a bit different. St Kilda home game in Cairns, Kazali Stadium. I hadn't played there since under 15s. In the tournament. So that was good. And yeah, as you said, we've actually done better than what people probably thought. So
for sure. And with that game, though, the reason I brought it up was obviously you guys are down ridiculously at the start and then a huge bounce back. What's that sort of energy like at the moment? Is the team being kind of feeling under control in those situations now where it wouldn't have been the case last year?
Yeah. Well, on the weekend was interesting because it was wet weather as well. Like it was when you obviously know playing up here, it gets really humid and sweaty, and you've watched heaps of games at the Gabba. You see like how slippery.
Was it chilly up there?
No. It was 25 degrees, humid. Like it was beautiful, but it was wet as well. So just so when they went up, I think they went up. It was like 35-0. It was sort of like this could go anyway because it's wet. It's obviously harder to kick scores in the wet.
Yeah, definitely.
Massive fight back from our young boys. But yeah, we haven't started well last 2 weeks because against Collingwood we started really bad and it cost us the game.
Yeah,
we lost by.
There's been a couple of games like that where you guys have been on the chase at the end there.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's good to know now at least that you do have that ability to get from that point because from now on everybody in the team has that knowledge that they can actually get back there.
Yeah. It'd be nice to be the ones that get off to the hot start, though. So I mean, that's the area for improvement because last 2 weeks we've gone down big first quarters. And then Collingwood game we lost 5 points, but then St Kilda were able to win. So
what do you think that attributes to then? The slow starts then? Is it the energy or is it just everyone building into the game as it goes on?
Yeah, I don't know. Because we have such a young team. Like sometimes it's up and down. Like you don't know what you're going to get from some guys. Like it's just one of those things. Like we're not a very sort of battle-hardened team. Pretty young, but the weekend was very enjoyable. It was good to fight back, and it was good.
It was good.
It was nice.
Credit to the boys.
Yeah, full credit to the boys.
Always credit to the boys.
Yeah, always credit.
So mate, let's go back to where it all began. Mate, born in Melbourne, move up to Queensland. How much was the AFL sort of dream embedded into you at that point?
Oh, it was massive. As you know, Victorians love their footy, and I was born into a footy family in Victoria, and moved up to Brisbane in 2002. So I was probably five or 6 years old, and straight away started playing for Morningside, and played there for the next 14 years or whatever it was, and yeah, kept playing footy even though the Queensland influence was sort of there to play rugby or play a different sport, but very, very lucky to have played for Morningside because there was a great community of AFL people down there, and now it's just growing and growing, and great club, Morningside.
Definitely
fantastic
helps
club.
now that the Lions are doing so well. It'll just bring more Queensland fans to the sport. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, when you remember, because you're actually good time to mention Connor's uncle, Paul McConnell.
Paul McConnell,
He's been the long-time doctor of the Brisbane Lions, and he was the doctor in the three-peat era, 2001, 2 and 3.
He's seen it all.
He's seen it all. And that was actually the time that we moved up to Queensland, and we were already Brisbane Lions supporters because Dad loved Fitzroy.
Yep.
So we got to experience the three-peat, go to the Gabba every second week, watch them win by 60 points every game, and win those premierships. And then actually I ended up going to the 04 grand final. I always tell the story. I went to the 04 grand final and we lost, and I was like crying my eyes out because I didn't understand that like Brisbane could lose. Because all I know from age like 5, 6, 7, it was just win grand finals.
Like Simon Black, Michael Voss, Jonathan Brown, Ackermanis, like they were superheroes at the time.
Superheroes.
On the front of every paper, every fucking ad, like they're number one. And so there, basically, as you're going up, as you mentioned, like obviously AFL, especially in a private school, GPS schools, doesn't get played at all. If at all, it's some weirdos that do it down in Vic Park or some shit. But what was that
PE,
like?
Year 11 PE.
Mr. Gribble. Blanco drowning. But yeah, so from there, it's too many inside jokes. So when you guys are obviously playing outside of school, you've only got a couple of blokes that were at Terrace or even at private schools playing AFL. Was that like a deterrence at all? Like when everyone's playing rugby, everyone's playing soccer, like everyone's embedded in their sport that they're doing at school because they're involved in it so much. Whereas AFL, throughout a lot of the teams and earlier, it's not really followed that much purely because of the fact that it just isn't embedded in their school or any program like that. Was that ever a deterrence, or was there ever a handoff from seeing the end goal?
Honestly, it was. I actually see it. I see it as it was like a really good thing.
Yeah.
I look at it now and actually really enjoyed the fact that it was not such a, I guess, embedded in the school systems. You said, well, not even in the state really. It's just not the number one sport like it is in Victoria, South Australia.
I guess it would give you more room as well to be the best because there was potentially people that would be playing others, but that wouldn't be the case in Victoria and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I saw it as a good thing because like coming through school, I was always pretty into AFL. I always had the dream of wanting to play professional.
Yeah.
So it was never sort of a lot of guys, would come in and sort of drift off and might play rugby for a year. So it's sort of what my brothers did. They tried their hand at different sports, which is great. But
Jordan, the elite athlete.
Jordan, elite athlete, played. I think he got to the Bees. Ran on for the Bees.
In rugby?
Terrace Rugby Union.
Oh, you would have never had the end of that.
Funny story. He says he had the worst game ever, and the best one is he ran on and you probably know better, but he's like playing forward.
Yeah.
And they've sort of like they were rucking it up, and he was like sort of the guy that's like run over, and he let the guy run past him thinking there was players behind him.
Oh no!
And he let him go. And this guy just like took off down the field. And he looked up. He's gone, oh no! It was his one. It was one run on for the Bees, which is so funny. But
catastrophic to the team.
That's catastrophic. But it's great because he went back to footy, and he still plays footy now. Both Tyler and Jordan went back to footy after school and just play locally and have heaps of fun. But what was I saying? Yeah, back to the school stuff. I think it was good because, as you know, like I got to meet so many different guys that played different sports. Like obviously yourself, you're from a rugby family. You played, you were the captain of our school. In the end, you played Australian schoolboys. So to learn all about different sports, and then obviously Jesse as like a soccer player. So it was really good. And obviously a lot of my teammates all from Melbourne and stuff. And I love hearing their school stories of playing school footy and showing me photos and that.
Surely it would have been nuts. Like I was just thinking about that as you said that, like Matho and shit playing down Geelong. Like surely the high school footy down there must be bonkers.
Yeah, well, it's like the equivalent of like you playing Nudgy versus Terrace. It's amazing. Like, and my roommate right now, actually Harry Schoenberg, went to a school called PAC in Adelaide. He boarded there, was on a scholarship for footy. And he showed me photos and footage of them playing. I think they called it Intercol, which was sort of like GPS, like what we have. And when they won that, he showed me a video of like everyone rushing the field, big huddle, and then someone lights a flare. It's like a tradition.
Holy shit!
And they're all jumping up and down.
Hooligan stuff.
Yeah, hooligan stuff, and all the kids. And I was just thinking, like, it's just a different world. Like, I never got that experience with Aussie rules. Which is fine, but like it's good hearing those stories and. Even a lot of the guys from the big Melbourne colleges, like Haileybury and stuff, Geelong Grammar, like they all have those stories. But I like to share the stories of like how I'd go watch the rugby and watch you boys and how different it was. And
it was nuts, especially with the new stadium down there as well. It was fucking awesome.
It was awesome. I was showing that when Fox Sports did that video, 2016, I think we were a couple of years out of school.
We were at that point.
Terrace beat Nudgy. It was the first time.
Finally was put on media.
2004, I think, was the last time we beat Nudgy. And then we beat him.
That was Dick Ioane and all them.
And you ran on the field.
Oh, yeah, and I stormed the field.
Yeah, you stormed the field. And
ducked under the teacher. Secchi's coming at all
angles. The old boys were
so drunk as well, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm fucking wrecked.
I wasn't there because we were on a footy trip. We had a end of season footy trip. It was my first year at the Lions, so I missed it. But it was obviously Tyler's grade, year 12.
2016 Terrace Grand Final. It was against Nudgy.
It was Nudgy. It was the first time they beat Nudgy. And
it was to win.
And you ran on the field from the old boys' end.
You
streamed on the field.
And I was just turned into Callan Ponga for a second. I don't know how, with my RMs and cardigan. But it was good to see those boys celebrate that one.
Yeah,
that was fucking now playing for the Wallabies, the Psychos.
Yeah, good team.
Yeah, very good.
Good blokes as well.
Yeah, mate. So bugger all school. Then you get drafted in 2015. The dream comes alive. How insane was that for you? And like, also, how special was it to be playing for Brisbane, the club that you'd always supported? Like, when I go to your house, the first thing I see is that photo of like you when you were like fucking 4, or whenever you obviously first got there. You, Jordan, your older brother, and Tyler, your little brother, all on the Gabba ground wearing Lions jerseys, and 15 years later you're playing for them.
Yeah.
How hectic was that initial rush?
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, as we were talking about before with like the 3-peat and and that's sort of all I ever want to do. And got drafted to Brisbane, was in their academy, which was great. And you mentioned some of the names before from the 3-peat. Well, I walked into the Gabba and Justin Lepich was the head coach. Simon Black was my midfield coach. He was like my all-time hero and the most humble guy, just an absolute legend. And walked in there and it was was amazing, and got to stay in Brisbane for that time as well, and still get around all you guys. And then the first game rolled around, was at the Gabba, and all you boys were there. And
I was not. I was watching it on the smallest television of all time on Alex Oren's farm. Fucking banging out of it, just buzzing, dude. It was horrible. But it looked nuts.
Most of the boys
the real friends were there.
Yeah. The OGs were there. No, it was good. It was great. It was fun.
And it must have been nice as well to finally, like, have that crowd of your mates coming to see you, because as we were talking about before, the AFL hadn't got much attention until you did actually get.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Well, that's like all the boys that came and watched, like nearly like none of them from AFL backgrounds and stuff. So it felt good to like sort of play like this tiny part in like getting people interested in AFL. Yeah. Because at the time, like obviously Brisbane was struggling a lot. Like they'd been struggling for quite a few years. There wasn't much interest in AFL, and to have all the boys come and watch it.
No one's wearing their shirts, fucking going ham.
Not at all. It was great. It was
brilliant. Yeah, and obviously when you were in those first couple of years of the Lions, they were down bad at the time, and then basically you were getting a lot of game time just due to injuries and whatever was going on. So you were actually getting forced into the AFL like quite early, and it's great for that breeding purpose there. What were anything memories from those first couple of games, like the difference of the feeling from that initial first AFL debut in comparison to whatever game it was before? Would have been like under-18 nationals or whatever, I assume. Was there anything that you remember from that first, like the contest where you're like, oh shit, we're with the big boys now?
I remember it so clearly. Like I remember that first year like it was yesterday. Really, it wasn't that long ago, but it does feel like a lot's happened since then. But
I had hair.
Yeah, you had a lot of hair as well. You were homeless Connor for a while.
That was awesome.
Look at you now.
Yeah, mate. Once we get 20 more episodes in, the money will start coming in. We'll head off to, where do they do hair transplants?
Ashley Martin.
Turkey.
Oh.
Boys trip to Turkey. Go get me new hair. Yeah, you think how good that'll be? Get new hair, come back. Got hair.
I like the reverse, the beard and the really full beard and the no hair. I actually think you rock that pretty well.
The upside down face.
Yeah, the upside.
Yeah, that could always work well. But I'll stop fucking derailing you about my bald fucking head. Back to the debut.
Yeah. So
or
yeah,
not debut, or just the first time
you
you were really thrown in the end.
Yeah, well, yeah, because before that, like, you know, the Lions NEFL, and I was sort of playing for them age sort of 17, 16, because with the Lions Academy, that gave me the opportunity to play with the reserves. For the people that don't know what that is. So I did get to play with, I got to play with guys like Archie Smith, guys that would end up being my teammates. So I sort of like already knew a lot of the boys when I did get drafted at Brisbane. Because of that whole NEFL program, and I think that's great. That's especially for Queenslanders where footy's not that strong, to be able to play against men at that early age probably helped a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty much got to Brisbane and just remember sort of how different it was. I think my first game was against the Sydney Swans. We lost by 3 points. It was a wet day at the Gabba, and then I remember the second game was at Adelaide Oval against Port, and we lost quite big there. But I remember everything about it. It was a tough season. Like we were taking a lot of losses. We were losing big a lot of games, which did make it difficult. And I was sort of plugging away in the forward.
But I guess when you're that age as well, though, it's sort of like, who gives a fuck? You just want to be out there. Obviously, the result, you want the results, but that initial, like, at least first half of that season, you're going like, oh shit, I'm just out there.
Essentially, that does happen naturally, and we had a lot of those guys. We had such a young team, and there were so many injuries, and I think guys were just sort of happy to be out there. And I think sort of the older players were almost like, we're going to get the season finished because, it was unfortunately a bit painful at times, but ended up playing 16 games, probably way before I was ready to. So pretty much thrown in the deep end, and can't complain too much. I mean, I'm pretty grateful for that first year. That was fantastic.
That's probably the best first year you could ask for, like being a young blood in the AFL there. But then obviously as it moved on, we started to get all the draft picks. Like the building phase initially started probably around 2017, 2018. And then you'd kind of find yourself in that awkward position where you're probably good enough to be playing, but then there's just guys coming in who are just elite or soon to be the next best thing. You know what I mean? It's hard to argue with that. When there were, because the game sort of started dropping off a little bit. And as I said, purely not, you're getting best and fairest a lot in the NEFL. You're winning NEFL premierships. You're doing everything you possibly can, basically. But then, obviously, games start dropping off and start playing less and less as your rest of time with Brisbane goes. How challenging was that to think? Because it is a weird thing when you're like, I'm probably good enough. I'm not like actually like dying right now out here, but like I'm just not getting the results that I want. And I guess I would also say it would be difficult when you're getting one game and then you have 3 weeks off, and then they chuck you back in, and you're not getting a consistent pattern to build up. Mm-hmm. What were your emotions like throughout that sort of period, and how were you like looking through it?
Oh, it was tough. It was a lot of different emotions, I guess. It was pretty much like almost a proper sort of welcome to the AFL moment.
Yeah.
It's not all smooth sailing, and there's just the guys that come in and then play in their first year and then play for the rest of their career, like they're so rare.
Yeah.
And I think every player comes in and like wants to be that, which is natural. Like every player sort of sees himself as that guy that's going to do that. But I think it's almost like every player needs to experience it or will experience it at some point.
Yeah.
And that's the getting dropped and the weeks going to the reserves and then not sure if you get back in and then might come back in. Like other players sort of go through injuries and stuff. I was pretty lucky. I was actually pretty healthy the whole time, but it was just, as you said, Brisbane got some picks in and got so many talented boys and it was a bit of a challenge, a bit of a process, but I think it just made me sort of
hungry.
Maybe hungrier, but it also just sort of gave me better perspective. Like
definitely,
footy's not like everything, and you have to be playing and all that stuff. So
Sure.
So I was able to sort of go through those challenges and come out the other side a bit better, which is what they want. But as you said, played 10 games in the second year, and then we also had the NEAFL Grand Final and won the premiership in that year, which was pretty epic. Probably didn't enjoy it as much as I should have because I was more concerned with playing in the AFL team, but still got that done. And then, the next 2 years, sort of 2018-19 is when it was sort of a bit more of a challenge, and still able to get a premiership in there with a NEAFL, and actually went undefeated in that 2019 season.
Yeah, so good.
You're at that grand final at Southport. That was nice.
A punishment for the other team.
Yeah, we punished everyone that year. It was a very, very strong reserve side. Probably one of the strongest reserve side that's come through.
Does the rest of the NEAFL have like a low-key little bit of hatred for the reserve grade team? It's definitely the team to knock off.
Absolutely.
Sure. But is there ever resentment when you guys are just feeding them like that for a year?
Oh, there was plenty of that. There's some games I remember one game that we were beating. I think we were playing Canberra Demons, and we were winning by quite a bit. And I think one of the players said to Alan Christensen, we're part-time footballers playing against 500 games AFL experience, which it was pretty true at the time. We had some crazy names in there.
Yeah.
But it's just how it goes. Like some years that I was at the Lions, we had injuries, and then the reserve team gets pretty depleted, and then the reserve team's actually almost easier to beat because they've got so many sort of academy players playing.
Yep.
There's not as many listed, and it's all about injuries and stuff. Really, how strong your reserves team is.
Yeah.
But it's obviously pretty important to have a strong reserves team.
Oh, definitely, it's everything.
Put pressure on the seniors.
That's your fucking new blokes coming in.
Yeah.
So then, mate, obviously the Brisbane Lions career ended, contract finished up. Was there that little bit of, there was probably a little period there where it's kind of going what's next? And especially when you aren't getting those games at the end there, were you worried at all, or were you just still pretty confident that this was going to be able to full come again? Also just your initial start with Adelaide and how you got the call.
Yeah, well, I was quietly confident. I felt like I deserved. I felt like I deserved another opportunity.
Yep.
But I was also, as I said before, that period playing in the reserves, did make me sort of almost a better person. I was more sort of well-rounded. Sorry, was I shaking the table?
But I'm bouncing around like a ball. Sorry. Go on.
What was I saying? Yeah, I was more sort of well-rounded and had better perspective. So there was part of me that was sort of you know what, whatever happens. I'm happy to play second tier and maybe get a job and do some study, things like that. But deep down, I was sort of quietly confident that I deserved another chance. And pretty much spoke to Adelaide probably once, had one conversation, and then didn't hear from him for months on end. And I sort of thought, they interviewed me, but they've probably got other plans. They're not too keen. And then the day came around, they picked me up, and they said later that they were always going to pick me up. They just didn't want to give another team a sniff that they were going to choose me. So
going around.
So
which is fantastic for them, but you.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have that heads up for a couple of months when I was waiting around, but happy with how it worked out.
So you got drafted in the rookie draft.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing at the time there. So that basically means that what is the age cutoff for the rookie draft?
You can be any age. So it's pretty much
it's determined on what?
It's almost like a delisted free agency pool a lot of the time.
Yep.
So it's a lot of guys that sort of have been delisted or things like that. That's usually the guys that sort of get picked up in there. Or it's pretty much like the tail end of the draft essentially. So there might be some 18-year-old former basketballer that hasn't quite sort of got the runs on the board, but a team will take him on the rookie list and have him on the list to sort of give him a go. And
whatever.
It's sort of like that. It's hard to explain, but it's sort of it's
like a second chance, last chance.
It's just like the end of the draft. So the tail end of the draft. So
gotcha. And so you go to Adelaide, who obviously in previous years have had heaps of success, killing it, and then up until where you got to, it was obviously a little bit murky waters, I suppose. What was that initial change like? Because obviously, it's not only you just playing for a different club, you're moving your whole life down south. You've got a completely new set of mates. Obviously, I'm sure there might have been a couple of familiar faces potentially. Or was there even anyone there that you knew?
Not really. I got drafted with a guy called Ben Crocker who was at Collingwood and got drafted my year. And we had done a program together, under 18s academy, sort of nationwide academy. So I knew him sort of, but that was pretty much it. And Probably the only other guys were guys that I'd sort of heard about through Charlie, playing with Charlie Cameron, who's a former Crow.
Yep.
So I knew some of his, or knew of some of his mates like Brodie Smith and Rory Laird, but didn't know them like personally. So it was actually it was massive. It was massive, but I was so happy when I got picked up by him. I couldn't wait to get down there, and sort of felt like I was at that time of my life where moving cities was going to be good for me. And it was great. It was fantastic.
And when did you sort of realise like how fucking insane the Adelaide Crows, especially their fandom, is down there? Because coming from the Lions, which I mean, now whoever's watching the Lions and is out there that weren't there 8 years ago, trust me, it looks a lot bloody different. So it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Whereas like pretty much rain, shine or hail, the Adelaide fans are going to be out there going
100%.
bonkers. When did you first like really realise that? Well, I guess you would have always known, being a huge fan.
I knew they were a big club, and like people told me to like expect that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it probably wasn't until I sort of started playing regularly that you sort of got to experience it. And you know, with that 2020 COVID year, we didn't have the chance to get like full crowds. Like, we got some crowds towards the tail end of the year, and the noise was good, but they were still like pretty low, sort of like 10,000. But then this year, with crowds back, some of the close games that we've played in were epic, and yeah, probably a highlight was not a highlight because we got beaten, but playing Port Adelaide in the showdown.
In the showdown this year,
yeah, it was their home game.
Yeah,
so,
and you guys share stadiums though.
Yeah, we both play at the Adelaide Oval, so it was their home game, and their fans are just mental. So that was good, and then we get the home showdown towards the tail end of this year, so that'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. What's that there?
Should come down for that one.
Oh, mate, I'll definitely be down. I'll be down there, wigging out with Henry. But mate, that showdown? Definitely, like, there's so much. Like, I'll try to explain this well, what I'm trying to think. But like, obviously, not being from Adelaide, you can only know sort of how much it really means through the fans, I suppose, and like maybe Adelaide players that are there that have grown up like really feeling it. Because when you're at State of Origin or anything similar, Terrace Nudgy or whatever, you represent that thing. Whereas now you're kind of just coming into it. Are there any boys that are in the Crows that like get riled up for that game, and you have to kind of get that juice off? Yeah,
100%. And funny you said State of Origin, like that's I'd actually, like, for the Queenslanders listening, like that's sort of what it feels like. It's like a mini or like a smaller interstate State of Origin. Like, that's the rivalry, and that's how fierce it is, and that's how divided the town is. Which is
it's the same city. It's the same city. It's not even State of Origin. It's like fucking neighbour.
Some people probably hear me say that and go, like, some rugby league heads will hear me say that and go, what the hell? Like, no way. Like, that wouldn't happen. But it is like that. And you can go look up, like...
take their opinion back to Caboolture, I say.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't have to agree with that. But
I'm not agreeing with that.
No.
I'm not agreeing with that.
Yeah, no, don't agree with it. Go ahead.
Go Maroons. That's good because we've got a few New South Wales players, so we're getting in the Origin.
Oh, right,
Tex Walker's from Broken Hill, New South Wales. Ben Davis is from New South Wales, so yeah, bit of State of Origin rivalry there. Tex
Walker as well would have been a very interesting person to see you walking in on your first year at Adelaide. So much hype around him, King of Adelaide.
He's absolute king. That's exactly how I describe him. He's greatest bloke. Made me feel so welcome to have a figure like that you've sort of watched for a long time, and how good he is, and how sort of big he is, how big his personality is, and for him to sort of just end up being mates with him and be just so welcoming, and it's just amazing. It says a lot for sort of what he's done for the culture over the years of the Crows.
Definitely.
Like, he just took guys like me and Harry, guys like that, took us in under his wing pretty much and showed us the ropes, and yeah, he's great. He's
so sick, yeah, and it's crazy how things can change, because last year was deep end city. It was getting bad at times. Obviously, just so many new players, all young fellas, like kind of what you've already experienced at Brisbane, sort of repeating itself again. What was that? Like, I mean, I guess it gave you that opportunity again to get game time and get out there. Knowing then that you're on the rookie, coming back through the rookie draft, is sort of, it's game time now. It's make it or break it. Like, if this ends, it could end.
Yep.
Like, was that just driving you throughout that season? Because it looked like you had a whole different beast in you.
Well, yeah, that was driving me massively. I obviously went from had 4 years at Brisbane. First few years pretty secure. Probably got a bit too comfortable. Thought it was going to last forever, and then sort of got the kick up the backside that I needed with leaving Brisbane and got to Adelaide on the 1 year deal. Which was, it was, look.
Crunch time. It's so good.
Well, mate, it was a whirlwind because COVID happened in March or whatever it was. So we I went from doing the pre-season through December, January, February, like working so hard to get there. And then,
we're doing the same with football.
Being on the 1 year, and then COVID's happening, and they're saying like there's not going to be a season, like they're going to lose millions, they're going to lose 600 million, the AFL's going to go on, saying all this stuff, and I'm thinking like, oh, please don't, because I just got here. I just got here on the 1 year.
Yeah.
I was so keen to start with the lads, with the Crows, and then that happened. I was just like, this is classic, But I used it to my advantage. I came back to Brizzy through that COVID period and just trained even harder and kept running and kept doing weights.
The boys here from Brisbane that you're already mates with.
Had guys to train with, and that was key, because then was able to get back and the season got up and running, and I think that work that I did through that COVID break set me up for that mini season. Well, it was a mini season. There was only 16 games as opposed to 22, and the quarters were a bit shorter, but that's it's pretty much what I needed. I guess as you said before, it was a tough year, 2020 for Adelaide, but we're in that transitioning period, and look, I don't think it's going to be long. I think we've got so much talent, and a lot of guys that work really hard as well. We don't just have talented guys that have walked through the door as high picks. Like, we've got guys that work really hard, and guys that were later draft picks, and they're all working really hard as well. So 2020 was tough, but showed improvement in 2021, as you know, and hopefully you've watched a couple of games and you've liked what you've seen.
I've watched a bunch of games this year. It's been awesome. I've seen some half dodgy ones, and I've seen some crackers.
I was going to say, I think you've watched most of the crackers. I think
I've been a good luck charm when I tune in. It's been going pretty gravy, but definitely the highlight, as I was saying to you in the car the other day, was Melbourne Adelaide.
Yeah, great game. Yeah.
What a game.
Yeah,
it was insane, because like at the time, for anyone that wasn't watching or didn't know, obviously Adelaide, rough as guts year last year, bottom of the table, start winning a lot in the first couple of games, getting the points up on the board, but sort of plateaued to the point. And this game, which is about 3 weeks ago, Melbourne top of the table, 10-game win streak, Adelaide number 15, not coming through, not looking the goods at all, potentially on paper. And then just an absolute rip snorter. Yeah. The whole game. It was so awesome.
Crazy,
I couldn't believe it. And I was screaming. Our neighbours probably thought someone was getting murdered.
Yeah, and that was probably one of the games where I was talking about the crowd before. That was really fierce. Like that, I reckon they got us over the line. And they did that in round one against Geelong as well. Like, having that crowd back at a decent capacity was just helped so much. Like, it's just
insane.
It can't be underestimated. The home support, especially our supporters. Like, our supporters are nuts. So the noise was crazy. And
what's the big lanky for Melbourne? I'm pretty sure he's the captain. Big lanky bald fella with a beard.
Oh, Max Gawn, the ruckman. Yeah.
Is he a rough fella to come into contact with?
He's a very, very good ruckman. Very good player. He hasn't hit me hard yet. Like, he hasn't. But he's like just so good.
He looks so good.
He's so good.
I watch him. I'm like, oh.
Riley, our ruckman. You've met him.
Yeah.
Like,
big man.
He had a big job that day, and he played very well. Like, he was very good. Like, Max is such a good ruckman. So for Birdo to do what he did that night was awesome.
Speaking of Riley, so interesting, because obviously the new AFL docuseries has been coming out lately. And one of the key stories, obviously, for any Crows fan, I'm sure has seen it, but any Brisbane that haven't definitely need to search it up. But Riley getting caught out tweeting, which I fully don't believe, by the way. I'm in the sus category.
It happened.
So just explain for people, for those that don't know.
So last year through the 2020 season, Amazon did a docuseries called Making Their Mark, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
And they did different guys from a few different clubs, and Rory Sloane, our captain, was one of the people in the documentary. So we had Amazon cameras like a camera team there pretty much all season once the season restarted.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Nick Nat Nui from West Coast also was the centre of their documentary as well.
Yeah.
So he was getting followed around with cameras. So the way it worked out was crazy. But basically what happened was Rob's probably so sick of this story.
Oh, probably.
Hopefully he doesn't watch this.
Yeah.
Or if he does, skip this part.
Yeah, 65 people listen to this, so it's fine.
Think of how many like people have like messaged you on Instagram and stuff like, hope you get a new phone, mate.
Oh, God, it would have been excruciating.
Oh, it's just so many cover.
Do you guys get like everyone's DMs? Like if you've got like a lot of followers, does it come through like anyone that sends you? Does it come through the top?
It comes to the request, so you know, like you don't have to look at them if you don't want. But he was
his
like,
request box would have been
and
absolutely.
even when we played West Coast this year, like I knew it would get under his skin. I was like, oh, better get a new phone this year, mate. You want me to confiscate it? Like just making the worst jokes. He's like, shut up, dude.
He's just so pissed off.
Oh, sorry, I've got sidetracked. But anyway, this is just crazy how this happened. So he put in his notes, he did a note of his sort of game notes. So he did almost like an analysis on Nick Nat and said, you know, Nick Nat, his strengths, can jump high, great tap ruckman, good in the air, weaknesses, he can't run, he's lazy, unfit. Like he sort of tried to, it was almost like a way of himself.
Mentally G himself up.
So mentally G, like where can I get this guy? Rob's a really good runner.
Yeah.
He's a really good long distance runner. And so he was probably thinking, like, I need to G myself up here.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
so he said in his notes, like the words were lazy and unfit. They were like the only bad like words.
Okay, yeah.
And he smashed his phone, and I don't know how this happened, but he's somehow, I think you can go on the notes, I think you can press like a little button and say share. And then you can say share via Twitter or share via message, share via, you know what I mean?
My phone is currently cooked, so I understand this dude's pain.
Yeah. You've had
text bad.
You're shocking with phones. He pretty much accidentally, his phone pretty much shared the notes to Twitter. So it's gone on Twitter, and obviously all the media outlets have picked it up. And
how long until he realised?
I don't know. I don't know who told him first, but we were all at the club. We were all at the club doing weights and stuff, and word got around, and it was sort of like, there's no way that's happened. Like, there's no way that's happened. There's no way. And the Amazon crew were there to capture the whole thing, and it was so funny. And the best reaction was Riley's girlfriend Chloe called Jake Kelly, who's Riley's best mate, and I'm close with Jake. And Jake was on the physio table just laughing his head off, like he just couldn't. He's like, couldn't have happened to a better person than Berto. And poor Berto had to go. He had to go in front of the camera and say, like, the social media team had to do like a video, and he showed his phone. He's like, he's pretty much, check this out, guys. Smashed my phone up, and my phone's tweeted my notes out, and it was just awful. It was awful.
So horrible. And for anyone who doesn't realise, Nick Nat Nui is arguably the scariest guy in the AFL. He's so big, and so strong. Like, he's a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely. And they're versing him that weekend.
And we'll verse, So
and so then he sees it, and they've got to verse each other. How did that game go? Was there a little bit of like low-key fire in the bellies of everyone?
Yeah, well, it was funny because when we watched the Amazon, we watched our section of the Amazon documentary at the end of the year, and obviously Nick Nat's part was included.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is, like, looking at his phone, watching that video, like the apology almost video, and he's gone, can't wait to bash this kid. big Nick Nat, like, sorry, but I'm allowed to say that. And we were just like, oh, God. But that week was good because Riley actually played really well, and it was a really good battle, but West Coast got the chocolates at the end. But Riley played really, really well. And now he just laughs about it, but very, very funny. And at the end of the game, Nick Nat's come up with a new phone, like presented him with phone.
He
did like a PR stuff, like gave him a new phone, and they like slapped up, and it was all fun in the end. I think from what I've heard and what I've seen, Nick Nat's a pretty good bloke, and Riley's just an excellent human.
Legend.
There was
so nice.
The poor guy. He would never do anything
that'd
malicious.
Be a cracker of a fight, but if it ever went down, two big dogs swinging.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. I don't even know who I'd pick for that. That'd be bonkers. Well, mate, that's pretty much everything I've got to say. One thing I was just going to say just to all AFL fans out there, don't wear Guernseys to the game without a T-shirt underneath. You'll look repulsive. It is so gross.
Why?
Because when you guys go out there, it's sexy as. Like, you guys go out there, all hot as. Like, Brooke saw Fags in the shop the other day. Fags came up to her and he was like, oh, yeah, we're going to coach the game tonight or whatever. And Brooke goes to him, oh, yeah, no, I actually don't really care. I don't watch the sport. I just see who the hot guys are.
Oh, my. Are you serious?
Horrible fan. But, yeah, you guys go out there looking gorgeous. And then bloody big, like me out there with a Guernsey on, like pale arms hanging out, belly hanging out, like eating a pie. Like, I'm just sorry. It's not a thing. Wear sleeves. That's all my little PSA. But other than that, man, I just want to sign off with that.
Because it's a winter sport, most people actually don't do that down south. It's only up here because it's so hot that you see people rocking the jersey with no sleeve.
Yeah.
If you've got good art, like if you're fit and you're in good shape, you should be able to.
Oh, bro, I saw someone down at the Gabba one time wearing a New South Wales Origin jersey to the Lions versus Gold Coast. And I was like, oh my God. That was the game where Beamer got up me.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to tell that story? That's a good story.
Yeah. Me and Beamer,
you guys were on good terms now. You're allowed to tell that.
We've rekindled
the way that you run into, like, just
I don't know,
random like athletes and stuff.
Just keep happening to me, dude. It's cooked, but I'm happy for it.
Yeah. Pretty much Brent Maloney, everyone would know, is a former player at the Lions. Played for Melbourne and Geelong, I think, as well. Had a very good career. Good player. I want you to tell us.
No, I will. So it was I was there at a work event. So I was in the Cricketers Club area where it was there. Sorry, my bloody phone's going off there. But we were there in the Cricketers Club, and we're in the nice section. I'm with work people. And to set the scene, Brisbane are winning 125 to like 43. Like, it's an absolute joke. Like, just absolute whitewash. 3 minutes to go on the game. I'm yarning to my boss. I've had a couple of beers talking about whatever. I think we're talking about music or something or other. Not looking at the game because it's just dead. And we're talking about it, yada, yada, yada. And then just out of nowhere, this dude turns around with big, like, chest hat, like, buff ass, like, looking, like, hectic. You're, like, just the last person you want to get.
He's a scary-looking guy. He's a pretty tough-looking guy.
Definitely, bro. Really nice bloke.
Yeah, great bloke.
Wasn't nice then. Turns around and he goes, like, can you shut the fuck up? And I was like, what? I was like, what have I done, mate? Like, we're just having a yarn. He's like, mate, just shut up and watch the game. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there going, like, we're not in the cinema. Like, there's nothing to be, like, quiet about.
You would have been so angry. You get a real attitude with that stuff. You hate authority or being told what to do.
Oh, I hate being told what to do. Meanwhile, I've got no idea who this guy is, so I'm just thinking, like, fuck, man, like, this is so annoying. And, like, he's off me, and I'm also, like, a little bit scared. He's fucking really scared. And he was with his dad. That's what I realised as well. So he was just, like, chilling, wanted to watch.
Honestly, if I was sitting, but if I'm a former AFL player and he's sitting behind you after a few beers,
dude,
I'd be exactly the same.
The same. He had every right to. And then Austin looks over at me and goes, like, do you know who that was? And I'm like, what do you mean who that was? And he's like, that's Brent Maloney. Bam. He's like an AFL legend. And I was like, oh, no.
Tell me about when, and then you went to the toilet after the exchange.
Then I went to the toilet afterwards, and then he kind of gave me the little bit, I don't know whether he'll admit that or not, he gave me the little shoulder. Now I'm, like, officially shitting my pants and needing to get the fuck out of the Cricketers Club. And then we eventually did. But then randomly, like a month or two ago, we were having drinks recently, and I bumped into him again, and we started talking.
Good guy.
Getting along like a house on fire. And in my head, I'm like, oh, fuck, this is Beamer. And I'm like, he doesn't remember me. And I was like, oi, mate, I'm just going to get this off my chest right now. But cause we built up a bit of rapport. We built up a bit of rapport. And then I was like, Beamer, I saw you at a game one time. I don't remember like 2 years ago. And I was talking and you turned around and told me to get fucked. And he was like, was that you? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, mate. Fuck me, you were annoying. He was like, you were talking about, he was like, were you that guy talking about rugby or something? And
I remember you told me you were talking about this, when you first called me about, you're like, I was talking about the sticky fingers.
The sticky fingers. How much
and I was like, I would have been,
yeah.
But you know what? Like, I went to the final with Jesse last year when our season finished, and Brisbane were in finals, and we went to the Richmond final at the Gabba. And some of the people that were sitting behind me that obviously had just jumped on the bandwagon, didn't know anything, some of the stuff they were saying, mate, me and Jesse nearly turned around as well and told him just to shut up. Like, it's just when you're sitting with Jen Pop, there's so much people that are just...
Yeah, no, it's bad. I've nearly assaulted some people at the Reds before, just like throwing their, mate, rugby union crowds. Woo! People throwing their 2 cents in and should not be throwing their 2 cents fucking anywhere. It's ridiculous. The AFL crowds are great though. I always learn more in the AFL crowds, like, and they're so like loud. Like the one me and Max went to when we were, I think I've told you before, it was Richmond versus St Kilda.
Oh yeah, Melbourne. Yeah, that was good for you to experience that.
That was awesome.
Was that your first game in Victoria?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so it's proper crowd.
Yeah, and Richmond were starting to pump St Kilda a little bit. And no, St Kilda were winning first in the first couple, and there was a couple of St Kilda dudes sitting down there by himself as well, like in a thick of black jerseys. That is the Richmond crowd. And there's another dude about 5 or 6 rows behind me, also the St Kilda one, and he just turns around and he goes like, "Mate, we're gonna do it. It feels like it's 1973 or whatever they won their last like premiership." Yeah. It's like, "I bloody know it. We're killing it." And then just the chat that was just buried them afterwards, but fuck, it's so funny because they get so vocal and they're so into it.
Yeah, the crowds down south are great. The Melbourne crowds are good, and good that you got to experience that. But that Brett Maloney story is so funny. I can't believe you broke bread with him.
He follows me on Instagram.
You sent a photo to me at one point. Did you take a selfie?
I think I might have sent one with old Beamer. He follows me on Instagram now, so hopefully he sees it. Shout out to Beamer. We'll get you on next. That'd be a great guest. Yeah,
get Brett Maloney because he's from what I've seen of his career, he'd have some good stories for sure.
Good old Beamer and Bald episode.
Beamer and Bald.
Beamer and Bald. It's Beamer and Bald.
You're great. You two go well co-hosting something.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'd have to keep it down.
He's a good man. Yeah.
Rightio, mate. Well, that's all I've got for you. Thank you for coming along. Good luck for the rest of this season. Hope the Crows fly high as they always do.
Yeah, a few more wins would be nice towards the end of the season. But
who have we got next?
I think we play Carlton after the bye. At the moment, it's at Marvel Stadium, but I don't know what's going on with Victoria at the moment, so it could be moved, but we'll see how we go. Yeah. It'd be nice to be able to play back down there. We played against North Melbourne earlier in the year, but haven't played in Melbourne since because of the whole COVID stuff. But yeah, it'd be nice to
get back down there.
Get back to the heartland and play some games. So.
Brilliant, mate. Sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, mate.
See you, mate.
Well done.
Bye.